I am an American airman. I am a warrior. My mission is to fly, fight, and win.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Master Sergeant Romeo Farinacci, and joining me today is my co-host, Tech Sergeant Jessica Recla. Tech Sergeant Recla, how are we looking for the 2020 recap?
Thanks, Master Sergeant Farinacci. It's great to be here today. Things are looking really good for the 944th Fighter Wing. They finished last year strong and are really the team to beat in 2021. We'll take you play by play through today's much anticipated competitive event. Folks, as we all know, 2020 was a long and unusual year, but we refuse to let COVID-19 keep us from recognizing outstanding accomplishments of our elite reserve airmen.
That's absolutely right. The challenges didn't stop, but the team kept forging and fighting at every turn. Now, before we dig into the main event, we'd like to recognize our ever-faithful season ticket holders, including members of the Arch Ragsdale, Arizona chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen, our honorary commanders, the outstanding 944th Fighter Wing Booster Club, our partners in the Fighter Country Partnership, Blue Blazers, and of course, our incredible commanders and chiefs and leadership throughout this stellar organization.
Yeah, and we can't forget to give a shout out to our past and present supervisors, coworkers, and especially the family members. We are so grateful for your leadership, heritage, and support. We applaud you.
You know, Tech Sergeant Recla, this show is going to be great, and our viewers joining from across the country today are in for a real treat. Thank you all for joining our virtual event this afternoon.
Before we get into the player highlights, let's check in with the head coach for today's event, the commander of the 944th Fighter Wing, Colonel Jim Greenwald, and his assistant coach, Chief Master Sergeant Aaron Buchanan. Coach, how are you feeling about today's lineup?
Thanks, Master Sergeant Farinacci and Tech Sergeant Recla. You know, I'm feeling great about this team and the talent we have on the field. Our skill is unmatched, and that's definitely going to be highlighted here today. Don't you think, Chief?
I sure do, boss. We've got the best players in the game, bar none. You know, we already have the most elite reserve citizen airmen in the country, and today we get to take a look closer at some of our top players. So how about some pregame inspiration, Coach?
All right. Teammates, 2020 turned out to be a real test of resilience for this team and challenged us to bring our A game. We overcame those challenges and succeeded in our mission to forge and fight. I'm truly proud of all of you and proud to be on this team with you. The players we're highlighting today displayed exceptional performance on and off the field, and I can't wait to recognize all of their hard work. Master Sergeant Farinacci, why don't you kick off the highlights?
Thank you, Colonel Greenwald and Chief Buchanan. Before we take a look at the lineup for today's competition, we want to say a special thanks for all of our sponsors who are supporting each nomination category. With that, up first is the Senior Civilian of the Year category, sponsored by the 944th Fighter Wing staff. The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Senior Civilian of the Year nominees are Miss Corey Dempster. Miss Dempster is a budget analyst with the 924th Fighter Group. Miss Nicole Martins, representing the 414 Fighter Group. Miss Martins is a Special Access Program Information Assurance Officer. And Miss Michelle Sullivan. Miss Sullivan is a budget analyst in the 944th Fighter Wing Comptroller's Office.
Master Sergeant Farinacci, that's a great group of senior civilian nominees. I'm excited to see who wins.
I am too. But we have so many more players to recognize. Next up, the Junior Civilian of the Year category, brought to you by the 944th Operations Group.
The 944th Fighter Wing Junior Civilian of the Year nominees are Miss Viviana Chavez Arambula. Miss Chavez Arambula is a defense travel technician with the 944th Fighter Wing's Comptroller Office. And Mr. Dale Haratuku. Mr. Haratuku is an A-10 engine technician representing the 924th Maintenance Squadron.
Wow, they're really going head-to-head on that category.
Yeah, that will be a great runoff. These unsung heroes make up our wing's special teams.
Speaking of special teams, our next category, Instructor Weapon Systems Officer, is about as special as it gets. Let's check out this presentation from the 944th Maintenance Group. The 944th Fighter Wing Instructor Weapon Systems Officer of the Year nominee is Lieutenant Colonel Eric Ossendorf. Colonel Ossendorf is an Instructor Weapon Systems Officer from the 307 Fighter Squadron.
I don't know about you, but that guy's got to be a sure thing.
Yeah, I'd probably bet on him to win. I think the odds are in his favor. Not so much for the next category, though. It's definitely more of a toss-up. Introducing Instructor Pilot of the Year, the 944th Mission Support Group.
The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Instructor Pilot of the Year nominees are Major Michael Fitzsimmons. Major Fitzsimmons is a flight commander as well as an F-15 instructor pilot from the 307th Fighter Squadron. Major Joshua Jones. Major Jones is the Chief of Weapons in addition to an F-35 instructor pilot representing the 944th Operations Group Detachment 2. And Major Daniel Levy. Major Levy is an A-10 instructor pilot from the 47th Fighter Squadron. These offensive players are the backbone of our training program.
Yeah, that's what they think.
Oh, that's a real fumble there, Farinacci. You can expect to be benched for that one.
So, moving on to our next category, let's scout out the field for Air Officers of the Year nominees, introduced by the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron. The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Field Grade Officer of the Year nominees are Major James Buchanan. Major Buchanan is an A-10C instructor pilot representing the 47th Fighter Squadron. Lieutenant Colonel Kendall Chudy. Colonel Chudy is the Director of Staff for the 307th Fighter Squadron. Major Alexander Essen. Major Essen is the Assistant Director of Operations as well as an F-35 instructor pilot representing the 944th Operations Group Detachment 2. Lieutenant Colonel Kathleen Kent. Colonel Kent is the Chief Nurse for the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Kazar. Colonel Kazar serves as the Staff Judge Advocate for the 944th Fighter Wing. Major Lizzie Windsor. Major Windsor is a clinical nurse from the 944th Medical Squadron. And finally, Major Mark Wolschlager. Major Wolschlager is an operations officer representing the 944th Force Support Squadron.
That's an incredible group, Farinacci. These seasoned players have led a full career, and they've been on the field for so long. Will they ever just retire?
Now, who's getting benched? Look, before we get sent to the Browns, we better move on. Our second string lineup is made up of our company grade officers hosted by the 944th Medical Squadron.
The 944th Fighter Wing Company Grade Officer of the Year nominees are Captain Danielle Clark. Captain Clark is a critical care nurse representing the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron. Captain Bradley Goss. Captain Goss is the Chief of Intelligence Training from the 924th Operations Support Flight. First Lieutenant Paris Mandy. Lieutenant Mandy is a clinical nurse representing the 944th Medical Squadron. Captain Monique Roux. Captain Roux is the Chief of Public Affairs for the 944th Fighter Wing. And Captain Aaron Walsh. Captain Walsh is an Aircraft Maintenance Operations Officer representing the 944th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron.
You know, they might be second string, but they're still elite AF.
Master Farinacci.
What? It stands for Air Force. And who is more Air Force than a first sergeant?
Well, we know who's not more AF than a first sergeant. Up next, our sponsor for First Sergeant of the Year is the 924th Fighter Group.
The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 First Sergeant of the Year nominees are Master Sergeant Joseph Gordoa. Master Sergeant Gordoa is the first sergeant for the 924th Maintenance Squadron. Senior Master Sergeant Michael Kuehler. Senior Master Sergeant Kuehler is the first sergeant for the 944th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron. Senior Master Sergeant Tiffany Lassane. Senior Master Sergeant Lassane is the first sergeant for the 414th Maintenance Squadron. Master Sergeant Kevin Moriano. Master Sergeant Moriano is the first sergeant for the 944 Civil Engineer Squadron. Master Sergeant Natalie Simonso. Master Sergeant Simonso is the first sergeant for the 944 Security Forces Squadron. And Master Sergeant Perla Tapia. Master Sergeant Tapia is the first sergeant for the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron.
All these first sergeants sure do bleed blue.
We can always count on them to look out for the team and help them when they are down.
Absolutely. They really keep this team going. This next group, though, they're just old.
You're right. Can't argue with that. But they do bring a lot of on-field experience.
Well, let's see. Presenting our Senior Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year category is the 414th Fighter Group. The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year nominees are Master Sergeant Candace Bullard Norwood. Master Sergeant Bullard Norwood is a Readiness Superintendent representing the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron. Master Sergeant Michael Luce. Master Sergeant Luce is a Process Improvement Working Manager from the 944th Maintenance Group. Senior Master Sergeant Michael Pedraza. Senior Master Sergeant Pedraza is an Operations Superintendent representing the 944th Security Forces Squadron. Senior Master Sergeant James Pumarejo. Senior Master Sergeant Pumarejo is the Munitions Flight Chief from the 924th Maintenance Squadron. Master Sergeant Amanda Robinson. Master Sergeant Robinson is an Aviation Resource Management Craftsman representing the 69th Fighter Squadron. And Master Sergeant Eric Wise. Master Sergeant Wise is a Specialist Flight Chief from the 414th Maintenance Squadron.
Come on, they're really not that old. They're just really distinguished.
You're right. These are the teammates that are really tackling the tough stuff. Our next group of players really take the rookies under their wing, though.
And that's quite a challenge. The 944th Operations Group, Detachment 1, presents the Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year nominees. The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year nominees are Technical Sergeant Alfredo Catolico. Tech Sergeant Catolico is the Assistant NCOIC of Training and Readiness representing the 944 Security Forces Squadron. Technical Sergeant John Howe. Tech Sergeant Howe is an NCOIC of Combat Plans and Training from the 944th Maintenance Squadron. Technical Sergeant Roxanne Moya. Tech Sergeant Moya is an Aerospace Medical Flight Chief representing the 944th Medical Squadron. Technical Sergeant Deanna Radke. Tech Sergeant Radke is a paralegal from the 944th Fighter Wing Judge Advocate Office. Technical Sergeant Michael St. Dennis. Tech Sergeant St. Dennis is the Munitions Materials Section Chief representing the 414th Maintenance Squadron. Technical Sergeant Sandy St. John. Tech Sergeant St. John is a supply technician for the 924th Maintenance Squadron. And Technical Sergeant Ashley Wells. Tech Sergeant Wells is a Health Services Management Journeyman representing the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron.
Yeah, those NCOs are the real MVPs. They're out on the field day in and day out doing the grunt work.
They certainly are making things happen, and they've got their trusty rookies by their side through it all. Speaking of rookies, let's hear from our Airman of the Year sponsor, 944th Operations Group, Detachment 2.
The 944th Fighter Wing 2020 Airman of the Year nominees are Airman First Class Juan C. Batis Ocan. A1C Batis Ocan is a fire team member from the 944th Security Forces Squadron. Senior Airman Myra Carranza. Senior Airman Carranza is an advanced fighter aircraft integrated avionics journeyman representing the 944th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron. Senior Airman Chase Doyle. Senior Airman Doyle is a medical logistics craftsman from the 944th Medical Squadron. Senior Airman Christopher Merrill. Senior Airman Merrill is a tactical aircraft maintenance journeyman representing the 414th Maintenance Squadron. And newly promoted Staff Sergeant Christy Riley. Staff Sergeant Riley is a training supervisor from the 924th Fighter Group.
That's a promising lineup of rookies. They're going to replace us all someday.
Sooner rather than later for some of us.
So let's recap, why don't we? We have 45 phenomenal players vying for the championship trophy in their respective categories, but only a few will walk away with the coveted Bronze Eagle. I'm excited to see the results.
Speaking of results, let's jump right into announcing the winners.
I like the sound of that. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to cheer for your 2020 annual award winners. Up first, the 2020 Senior Civilian of the Year is Miss Nicole Martins. In 2020, Miss Martins isolated a secure network failure, set up over 350 user accounts on a standalone secure network, and installed and configured 6 new domain controllers for 6 active duty squadrons. She installed and configured 12 digital video recorders and 9 laptops, providing critical capability to aircrew debriefs. Ms. Martins volunteered as a youth soccer team assistant manager, registering 20 players in North Carolina. Ms. Martins was drafted by the 414 Fighter Group and plays on the team as a Special Access Program Information Assurance Officer. Well, that's a mouthful. She's been playing with the 414 since 2019. Congratulations, Ms. Martins.
The 2020 Junior Civilian of the Year is Mr. Dale Haratuku. In 2020, Mr. Haratuku rebuilt 6 turbine engines and 2 compressors, securing 8 engine builds with 0 defects. He overhauled the engine workflow process by developing multiple action plans that saved and increased capabilities by 8% a year. Mr. Haratuku volunteered his time to raise awareness for children with alopecia. He also saved a life when he responded to a vehicle accident by treating and stabilizing a veteran in distress. Haratuku was drafted to play for the 924th Maintenance Squadron down in Tucson, and he excels as a Warthog engine technician. Congratulations, Mr. Haratuku.
The 2020 Field Grade Officer of the Year is Major Alexander Essen. In 2020, Major Essen wrote the F-35 Foreign Integration Guide and was selected to chair the Headquarters Air Force F-35 Operational Security Conference. He chaired the Barry M. Goldwater Range Aerospace Rebuild, synchronizing the requirements of joint forces and increasing efficiency by over 33%. Essen led a church group for 36 parishioners, provided base tours for local youth, and worked to build better quality education and programs for special needs children in the community. Major Essen came to the team in 2019 and has been a great part of the 944th Ops Group Special Teams in Detachment 2 as Assistant Director of Operations. Congratulations, Major Essen.
The 2020 Company Grade Officer of the Year is Captain Danielle Clark. In 2020, Captain Clark deployed in support of COVID-19 relief efforts to New York City, covering nearly 6,000 beds at various sites across the city and providing critical medical support to overwhelmed hospitals. She completed the challenging Tactical Combat Casualty Care course and held an infectious control personal protective equipment class for a local hospital to ensure the highest safety standards for caregivers. Clark also volunteered for a 6-week rotation at a local intensive care unit, providing treatment to 36 community members and leveraging her Air Force training to save lives. Clark has been a key player for the 944th Aeromedical Staging Squadron and has held the critical care nurse position for 2 years. Congratulations, Captain Clark.
The 2020 Instructor Pilot of the Year is Major Joshua Jones. In 2020, Major Jones organized 12 different air combat training missions, delivered 26 combat wingmen to 4 partner nations, and was upgraded to flight examiner. He authored Instructor Pilot Upgrade Pillars and standardized instruction for 3 wings across 2 major commands. Jones led COVID relief efforts to supply meals for unit families in need, volunteered as a coach for Little League baseball and soccer teams, and provided security at a local place of worship. Jones is another great draft pick for Det 2 in the 944th Operations Group, chosen back in 2019. He's made a name for himself as Chief of Weapons and an F-35 instructor pilot. Congratulations, Major Jones.
The 2020 Instructor Weapon System Officer of the Year is Lieutenant Colonel Eric Ostendorf. In 2020, Lieutenant Colonel Ostendorf reinvigorated the Operations Supervisor program, mentored 5 student pilots, and instructed over 90 flights, producing 4 F-15E crew for combat squadrons. He overhauled daily flying reports by tracking the status of over 1,600 training flights and earned a Flight Safety Award for reaching 4,000 incident-free flying hours in a fighter aircraft. Ostendorf planned, led, and executed the squadron's resiliency program and volunteered over 20 hours with Habitat for Humanity to aid community members in need. This guy's a legend. Playing for the 307th Fighter Squadron team, Dorf is crushing records as an instructor weapon systems officer, and after 6 years with the 307th, he's just sailed past that 4,000 flight hours, really putting his name on the map.
The 2020 First Sergeant of the Year is Senior Master Sergeant Michael Kuehler. In 2020, Senior Master Sergeant Kuehler coordinated care package delivery to forward operating bases, ensuring 17 Joint Force camps received food and supplies to build morale among deployed troops. He coordinated Red Cross notifications to ensure timely dissemination of critical information and provision of troop care in an austere environment. Kuehler also spent 90 hours coaching several community sports teams, mentoring local youth, and completed his bachelor's degree in leadership and interdisciplinary studies. Kuehler is a true team leader for the 944th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron at Luke. The 944th Logistics Readiness Squadron originally drafted him, and he was traded to the first shirt position 4 years ago, and recently joined AMXS to take over the first sergeant role. Congratulations, Shirt Kuehler.
The 2020 Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year is Senior Master Sergeant James Pumarejo. In 2020, Senior Master Sergeant Pumarejo directed 2,000 maintenance operations with a 95% quality assurance pass rate, generated nearly 11,000 bombs and guided munitions, and led a bomb pad Reno project eliminating a safety hazard for airmen. He coordinated and taught 5 evaluation and decoration writing classes for unit members, enhancing their career knowledge. Pumarejo also spearheaded a Santas in Blue effort in support of 63 local school children. Pumarejo was drafted by the 924th Maintenance Squadron in 2011 and has been killing it as their munitions flight chief on and off the field. Congratulations, Senior Master Sergeant Pumarejo.
The 2020 Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year is Technical Sergeant John Howe. In 2020, Tech Sergeant Howe directed his flights training program, revised exercise curriculum, and developed a mission set composite toolkit. He authored a pre-deployment training course that educated over 200 airmen, and his efforts throughout the year contributed to securing the Maintenance Medallion Award for the 2nd year in a row. Howe also volunteered to assemble and hand out care bags to the local homeless community. 2 years ago, Howe was picked up by the 944th Maintenance Squadron, and he's now playing a distinctive position as a non-commissioned officer in charge of combat plans and training. Congratulations, Tech Sergeant Howe.
Lastly, but most definitely not the least, the 2020 Airman of the Year is Staff Sergeant Christy Riley. In 2020, newly promoted Staff Sergeant Riley aided in maintaining currencies despite COVID-19 travel restrictions through the development of virtual training programs. Her leadership extended to the direction of a flight upgrade training program for fellow airmen, resulting in a 100% pass rate for her peers in mission-critical training. Riley invested in her education by completing 4 undergraduate courses toward her nursing degree, and her training prepared her to respond quickly during an emergency, resulting in saving the life of a local civilian. Riley joined the 924th Fighter Group back in 2016 and has been a diverse player, now committing lots of energy as the team's training supervisor. Congratulations, Staff Sergeant Riley.
What incredible accomplishments. Congratulations to all of our outstanding teammates and winners of the 2020 annual awards. Before we wrap up the show, let's go to the coaches in the locker room for an end of game analysis.
Congratulations to an outstanding group of players. The competition was fierce, and you really stepped up to show just how much you are elite reserve citizen airmen. Don't you think that was a pretty great lineup of All-Stars, Chief? Chief?
Well, sir, it looks like some of the team is ready to get cleaned up for their post-game celebration. But you're right, sir. This was a great group of candidates and a phenomenal selection of winners. If we had this level of playing in 2020, I can't imagine what 2021 has in store.
I couldn't agree more. Teammates, once again, I am so proud to work with y'all. You truly are engaged, ready, and resilient members of our Air Force. I look forward to the awesome things you're going to accomplish in 2021. Well, I don't know about you, Chief, but I am about ready to go celebrate with some of these outstanding airmen.
Well, there you have it, viewers. Another year of great teamwork and amazing accomplishments. Before we sign off, we'd like to give a big shout out to our producers at the 944th Fighter Wing Booster Club. Without their support, this ceremony and other wing events would not be possible.
That's right, Tech Sergeant Rekala. We'd also like to thank the honorary commanders for their generous contributions and unwavering support throughout a very challenging year.
Last but not least, we'd like to thank our behind-the-scenes crew that worked tirelessly to put this broadcast together, specifically Captain Monique Rue and Master Sergeant Luis Vega from the 944th Public Affairs Office and Mr. Jed Morgan from the 944th Communications Flight.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to celebrate the Elite AF, Air Force Airmen of the 944th Fighter Wing, and a final congratulations to the annual award winners. Good game.
Forge and fight.
Chief, that was awesome. What do you think about all the amazing work that our team did out there? That was pretty incredible, wasn't it?
Absolutely, boss.
I think we have some amazing airmen that put a lot of work into this thing. Jed Morgan, man, amazing work with the video skills and stuff.
Absolutely.
Captain Hooser organizing this thing. Captain Rue, Master Sergeant Vega, man, ton of work.
Tech Sergeant
Put in.
Richardson.
Yeah.
And boss, you know, we cannot forget about Tech Sergeant Rekla and Master Sergeant Farinacci.
Oh yeah, they did a fantastic job. We got such a great team of airmen.
For sure.
So how are we going to top that next year?
You have to ask the MXG, sir. Oh, boy, that's cold. Yeah. Uh-oh, down the shirt.
Where are you guys in July?
I am an American airman. Wingman, leader, warrior. I will never falter, and I will not fail.
Whew, I am so ready for the weekend. Hey, where do you think the coaches went?
I don't know. I mean, who knows what they even do when they're off the field.
I bet it's something really important.
Oh my gosh, so important. Meetings, etc., etc., etc. All the meetings.
I gotta take a break. Enough of this. Rematch. Need my target.
Safety, please. Thank you.
This one.